made it clear that you're big on story, but not big on plot. And I'd like you to just talk about the difference between story and plot, if you would.
I just found that over the years I was more drawn to the films that I constantly revisited or saw repeatedly held up longer for me over the years, not because of plot, but because of character and a very different approach to story, you know? Just, for example, talk about Hitchcock. And we see his films in the 50s as they came out. Strangers on a Train, Rear Window, all the way up to, Vertigo, North by Northwest, and into Psycho. But I think over the years, the films of Hitchcock that I enjoy watching repeatedly, The Wrong Man, for example, as a picture that I've used repeatedly as an example of mood, paranoid style, beautiful New York location photography. Was a picture that I screened for Michael Chapman, Paul Schrader, and everybody for Taxi Driver. And I think maybe ultimately it's one of the reasons I said Bernard Herrmann had to do the score. You know, I think so. And I talked about the paranoid camera moves, the feelings of threat. When, if you know the picture, Henry Fonda has to go to the paying his insurance in Queens. I grew up a little bit. I grew up till about 7 years old in Queens. So
me too.
Jamaica and that whole area. So it was kind of interesting to see it. But he's standing behind the counter, and the woman's looking over, and you see Henry Fonda from her point of view, and she thinks he's a robber because he had just robbed this place earlier, and she thinks he's come back. And the way the camera moves, her perception, excellent bit part players, because they could kill you if you don't get the right person. The fear, the anxiety, the paranoia, it's all done through the camera and the person's face.
It's the same.
I find that is more interesting to me. So when I saw Rebecca maybe 10 times, 14 times and everything, but at a certain point I said, for me, the style Hitchcock in that film is only in the sequence when Mrs. Danvers shows the Rebecca's room to Joan Fontaine. That's about it. For the rest of it, I know the plot and it's not interesting anymore.
Martin Scorcese, what a genius. Okay, so story versus plot. As I do the research for these videos and watch the interviews and kind of gather information, this was a super interesting one to kind of come across, because as an up-and-comer, as somebody who's made documentaries and a documentary and many short documentaries and tons of vlogs and tons of freelance videos, this was super eye-opening for me, because I feel like this is something deep down that I knew, but I didn't know how to word it this correctly. I wouldn't have thought to say, story versus plot or anything like that. So let's get into what this means. Plot is pretty simple. It's the people, the places, the events, and the happenings, right? Story is a layer deeper than that. It's the characters, it's the morals, it's the themes, it's the moods, and it's what makes something interesting, right? I could tell you a story about I could tell you a story about a teacher who just had a breakup and is going to class and has to power through the day, right? I could give you those sequence of events. I gave you a character. You can kind of assume she's in a classroom and there's students that she's teaching. But if I tell you that she drove to school recklessly, and I show you the dried tears on the outer shell of her eyes through a close-up shot, and you can see her rushing through her handwriting and crying as she faces the whiteboard away from her students, you can infer a lot more about the mood and what's going on and what this means to the character. And that is story. That's the difference between story and plot. And this obviously makes or breaks a film. I don't think at a professional level, everybody knows this, but I think to get to a professional level, you need to know this. Like, for example, I made a documentary for a freelance client that I work with very closely on a very regular basis, and we made the documentary about, quote unquote, her coming up in the fitness industry, right? Because this is a gym owner. But really, if you listen to what she's saying and kind of, you can, based on the questions I was asking, I was getting at why does she do what I do? What powered her through this 14 or 15 year journey from being a trainer at a box gym to owner of a very successful gym that's very well known in my city of Chicago, Illinois? I mean, I'll link it in the description. It'll be the first link below. But you can really start, like, if you pay attention to those little things, like, you start to understand story versus plot and what moves people. So this, it was after I saw this video, I kind of changed up the approach to how I'm creating videos for myself and my clients. And basically the new approach is always think about those deeper meanings, those morals, those aesthetics, those just one shot and can make a whole difference in a mood. Like I said, just the up close shot of the eye and seeing the dried tears. That tells you all you need to know. Just the shot of the teacher facing away from the classroom, crying as she faces the whiteboard, that tells you all you need to know. But if I just tell you, if you just see her texting her boyfriend and seeing the breakup text and seeing her in class the next day, there's so many different ways to play that out to communicate the message, essentially, is what I'm saying. I could show her sitting at her desk with a sullen, emotionless face, and that would be communicating something different. It communicates that she's feeling cold rather than heartbroken, such and so forth. So story and plot, you have to really connect the two to create something great. To create a situation where 1 + 1 = 3 rather than 1 + 1 = 2, if I'm going to reference the last video I just made about Ken Burns. That being said, I'm trying to do this exact thing. I'm trying to create a story with many layers. I'm trying to focus on story rather than sequence of event and plots. In my movie that I just filmed in New York City, The Manimal, I'm wearing the Manimal John Beneducci's merch right now to kind of communicate a message to you guys that I'm working on my next documentary, my next feature-length documentary, and it's going to be an accumulation of all the content you see on here, all the information I'm sharing, I'm taking into my film, and I want to create a space here where we can come together as documentary enthusiasts and just create a community around that. I want to make documentary cool. I want to make documentary. I love this game, and I want to create a group of people where we can gather together and love it together. So without further ado, keep on the lookout for that. I will see you guys in the next video. Make sure you subscribe, like, and share it with a friend who might be into this kind of thing. And I'll see you guys in the next video. Peace.